Welcome to Hello Houston. Coming up this hour, we'll dive into today's top stories, including Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s heated Senate hearing yesterday. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also speak with the Baker Institute's David Gantz, who will discuss how import tariffs are affecting the auto industry right here at home and abroad.
Plus, we'll also hear another installment of Friends of Frank, in which psychotherapist Karen Winston discusses her work counseling the Houston Texans.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the big orange banner.
All this and more right here on Hello Houston, right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Hiring in the U.S. slowed significantly in August. The Labor Department says employers added 22,000 jobs during the month, far fewer than were expected. NPR's Scott Horsley tells us the nation's jobless rate ticked higher to 4.3%.
For the second month in a row, the report shows U.S. employers added far fewer jobs than forecasters had expected. Factories and construction companies cut jobs last month, as did the federal government. Healthcare was one of the few industries to add jobs, and even there, hiring was slower than in previous months. Revised figures show a net loss of jobs in June for the first time since the depths of the pandemic in late 2020. The Federal Reserve has been keeping a close eye on the softening job market as it weighs a possible interest rate cut later this month. Investors widely expect the central bank to lower its benchmark rate by a 0.25 percentage point. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The South Korean government is expressing concern about an immigration enforcement raid at the site of a Hyundai electric car battery factory in the state of Georgia. 475 people were detained in the federal action. Homeland Security Special Agent Stephen Schrank.
We have also received many leads from community members, from prior workers. We have conducted many arrests through the immigration operations throughout the state of Georgia that have identified other employees that, when encountered, informed us that they worked there. We have interviewed folks, and we have developed evidence over the course of many months in support of the investigation.
The plant is part of a multi-billion-dollar package of South Korean investments in the U.S. in a deal announced in July. A day after a coalition of 35 nations came together in Paris to commit a peacekeeping force for Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a warning. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports that Putin says any foreign troops in Ukraine would be a legitimate Russian target.
26 of the 35 nations that pledge support to Kyiv say they are willing to put troops on the ground and in the seas and skies of Ukraine to keep the peace once it's established. The U.S. is supposed to provide some sort of backstop to this mostly European security force. But given President Trump's reluctance to impose tariffs on Russia and his enduring affinity for Vladimir Putin, many wonder if he will commit support, says Martin Quincey with the German Marshall Fund of the United States.
The commitment of the president himself will depend on how he sees the evolution of the conflict, his exchanges with Vladimir Putin.
So far, Putin has rebuffed all of Trump's peace proposals and never wavers from his maximalist demands. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
On Wall Street, the Dow down 268. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The Texas legislature's special session is over and the new congressional map is on the books. But Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton are still seeking to punish 13 of the Democratic lawmakers who broke quorum by having them removed from office. Several civil rights organizations are pushing the Supreme Court of Texas to throw out petitions by Abbott and Paxton. Sky Perryman heads the nonprofit Democracy Forward, which is representing the civil rights groups.
The main thing that we want people in Texas to understand is that this is a real threat to the ability of all people to vote and then to be represented by those who were elected. that is a threat to democracy in the state of Texas.
Perryman says Abbott and Paxton's actions have no basis in the Texas Constitution. Abbott and Paxton argue the 13 Democrats, including 4 from the Houston area, abandoned their offices by fleeing the state during a special session. A bill mandating sweeping new safety changes at camps in Texas has won approval from the Texas House. SB 1 was written as a response to the July 4th flooding across the Hill Country. However, Republican Representative Wes Verdell of Kerrville was one of 8 lawmakers who voted against it. He says it goes too far.
For over a century, our state has had many thousands of young campers that have benefited from their experiences at camp. If this bill passes, it will likely cease the operations of many camps and future camper experiences that have had little to no problems in their history of operations.
The bill won widespread support among lawmakers and is headed to the governor's desk for signature. A man facing capital murder charges in the death of a Nassau Bay officer has been convicted, but not for murder. ABC 13 reports that a jury has found Tavoris Henderson guilty of aggravated assault. This stems from an incident that happened 6 years ago when Sergeant Kyla Sullivan was killed during a traffic stop. Henderson was arrested after a 2-day manhunt in southeast Houston and now found guilty of aggravated assault. He's scheduled to be sentenced on Monday. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. We made it. It's been
Hello,
a long
weekend.
week. Yeah.
Ernie will be back next week.
Ernie will be back next week. Thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston. We have a lot going on today's show. But first, Frank, how's the weather?
The weather, you know what? It's hot. It's going to be 94, 95 today, feeling like 101. Tomorrow for Saturday, there's a slight shower chance, sort of that typical 20%. But then some moisture could wrap around. I've been talking about the tropical storm that's in the Pacific. Some of that tropical moisture could wrap in here on Sunday, especially, I think, if you're in the western part of the listening area. So if you're west of Houston, I think your chances are better to get a Sunday downpour, showers here and there. So Sunday's the day to watch. But all in all, not a terrible weekend.
No, yeah. And we will be talking about some of the last-minute plans. We've got you. We've got you.
Yeah, we've got you.
We've got you.
My British computer guy said, hey, what happened to Current Obsessions? We ran out of time yesterday.
Yesterday we had a packed show. And
do you have a quick one?
My current obsession, I don't really have. Oh, the obsession about Labubu's.
Okay.
Everybody's been talking about the Labubu, and my kids want, my daughter wants one.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, remember Beanie Babies?
Sounds dirty.
Remember Beanie Babies in the 90s?
Yeah, I do.
And Tamagotchis and things like that? Okay, that is the new generation of...
The Cactus Patch Kid. Huh?
Yep.
Okay, well, that won't last. Don't invest. I knew people that thought that those were going to...
Beanie Babies were
Beanie Babies were huge.
Thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
and
now they have... a lot of Beanie Babies in their garage.
They're trying to sell them on eBay. They're trying to sell them on eBay.
Well, we moved last week, so our obsession has been finding places to put things. So
that's tough. Did you move to a smaller?
No, we didn't really. We're about 3,000 square feet both places.
Okay.
But we went from 3 stories to 1. So we horizontaled.
You horizontal. Yep. I got it.
So we like it. Okay, that's the weather. Tell us about the headlines.
Yes. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was criticized by members of both political parties in a deeply contentious Senate Finance Committee hearing yesterday. Senators probed Kennedy's vaccine policies, arguing he lied during his confirmation hearings when he said he wouldn't disrupt access to them. Democrats called for Kennedy's resignation, while Republican Bill Cassidy, a doctor who originally voted to confirm the secretary, accused him of denying Americans access to vaccines. During the hearing, Kennedy, a longtime vaccine skeptic, said he did not trust data that shows COVID-19 vaccines saved millions of lives and repeated debunked claims that mRNA vaccines cause serious harm, including death. This is his exchange with Democrat Senator Mark Warner.
So I want to go back to just, again, some basic facts. Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID? I don't know how many died. You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID? I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there was so many perverse incentives. And these are modeled You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Last month, Kennedy canceled $500 million in funding for mRNA research. Now is the time to give us a call, 713-440-8870. What are your thoughts? Do you think RFK should stay or should he go? Do you think this is the right approach? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
You know, can we take it back to when he was running for president? And he said, look, to Trump, this is what I think happened. He said, look, I will endorse you and I'll drop out of the race and I'll endorse you if you promise to give me something when you win. That is called extortion.
Yeah.
That is a voter extortion. You can have my voters if you promise to personally enrich me. So this is the guy that was appointed to this position from where he stood, right? And we know where he stood. And it was very upfront about that.
Right.
So that's who we're dealing with. Don't expect somebody like that to tell you the truth.
And the other part of it is he's been very open about this. He's been very public about his stance on vaccines. Now, he did say he would not cancel or stop vaccines access when he was during his confirmation. And now a lot of elected officials are basically saying you're going back on what you said.
How old is he? Do you know?
I have no idea how he...
Because he's about my age.
Okay.
He's 71. Okay. So I can guarantee you he's had the same vaccines I've had.
Right.
So I would like to ask him, have you had the vaccines for the measles and the mumps and rubella and all those, whooping cough, all of those vaccines? And he'll probably say yes, but it wasn't my choice. And then I would ask him, well, have you ever gotten any of those? Yes or no? So is he going to say, yes, I got the measles, even though I had the measles vaccine? No, he's going to say, no, I never got any of those. And so there's the empirical
And that's
proof.
a great point, because what he is doing is affecting future generations.
And he has no right to do that. He's not a doctor. He has no standing in the medical community. He only got to where he got because he said, I'll endorse you if you give me something juicy. And he got it. So that tells you something about the president doing that, as well as this guy who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
713-440-8870. Again, you can join the conversation today on Hello Houston. We have a call. Alvin from the 3rd Ward.
I love Alvin.
Alvin,
hey,
welcome.
Alvin.
Happy Friday.
Hello, my people. Happy Friday. So, guys, you know I am not going to let up. I'm going to give it to you straight. As Frank was saying, as far as I'm concerned, how dare these Congress people to feign some surprise that this man was not fit for this position. They heard him during his entire campaign run, and even before that, the information was there that he was not the man for this job. And yes, he will be putting lives of people at risk. The fact that he could not acknowledge the number of people who died from COVID, that right there lets us know what type of dire straits we're in.
Yep. He could at least say more than 1 million. You know, you don't have to know exactly, but I think we all know it was more than 1 million.
Give me like a round out number. Alvin, thanks so much for joining Hello Houston with your perspective. We are going to go to a call. Oscar from Greenway. Oscar, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Hi. Yeah, I was just going to say I don't think that RFK should be doing the job that he's doing because he's clearly not qualified. But I also think this is part of a bigger problem where this current administration has placed people in positions of power as heads of agencies, or agencies that they shouldn't be running, or they have conflicts of interest in. And the whole point is to make them ineffective. The whole point is to make sure that they're not doing what they're meant to do.
Yep. Thanks, Oscar. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Oscar. We're going to go to a call. Ian from West Houston.
Hi, this is sort of piggybacking off of what Oscar said, that this is an administration that does not see a lack of credentialed expertise as a drawback. They see it as a positive. This is an administration that does not value experts, that actually routinely denigrates experts. Part of the reason is because their base has a lot of resentment against professional, educated experts because they feel these experts talk down to them. And
Oscar, sorry, I thought we had lost you for a second. Yep.
Ian. We got to wrap it. Thank you very much. I agree with you on that as well. Keep in mind, in his Senate confirmation hearings, he lied. He said that he would not take vaccines from anyone, and yet that is exactly what he's doing. And he's saying, and then when he was pressed on that, he said, "Well, both things can be true. I mean, I can support President Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts against COVID and getting a quick vaccine, but I can also be against vaccines." He's absolutely bonkers.
Doesn't work like that.
Let's go to our next guest.
Coming up on Hello Houston, the Baker Institute's David Gantz will discuss how import tariffs are affecting the auto industry right here in Houston and abroad, and he'll tell us all about it. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Fashion critic Robin Gavon gives me fashion advice.
I think you should wear the jeans that look the best on you, because then you will find your tribe.
All right. Robin Gavon on how to dress in your 40s and the enduring legacy of designer Virgil Abloh.
You can hear it this Sunday at 6 p.m.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Since April, a 25% tariff on imported cars and auto parts has driven up costs for manufacturers and consumers alike. Automakers like GM and Stellantis are facing billions in added expenses, with the average price of an imported car projected to rise by nearly $5,000. Industry analysts say the tariffs could cost U.S. automakers over $100 billion this year alone. Some companies are absorbing the cost, at least for now, while others are rethinking supply chains or pausing imports altogether. Joining us to break it all down is David Gantz, the Will Clayton Fellow in Trade and International Economics at Rice University's Baker Institute. David, welcome to Hello Houston. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And if you would like to join the conversation or have a question for David, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870. David, what auto manufacturers is this affecting the most that you can tell from right now?
I think it affects all those who sell cars to the United States, whether they're made in Mexico or Canada or a foreign country. China is the only manufacturer that's essentially barred from the U.S. market. So you mentioned in your intro the billions of dollars of costs that have already been incurred by Stellantis, that's used to be Chrysler, General Motors, and Ford, because there really isn't any automobile product sold in the U.S. that isn't affected by tariffs. Typically, about 8 out of the 16 million cars sold in a normal year, about 8 million are assembled in the U.S., about 4 million in Mexico and Canada, and the other 4 in foreign countries, mostly Germany, Korea, and Japan. But those that are coming in assembled from foreign countries, if they're coming from Japan or Korea or the EU, pay a 15% duty. Those that are coming from Mexico or Canada currently pay a 25% duty, although there's a credit for parts and components that are made in the USA. but it also applies to a car that's made in the U.S. For example, in Arlington, Texas, General Motors makes its large SUV Tahoes and vehicles of that size. But only about a third of the production value of one of those cars is U.S. The rest of it comes from Mexico or Canada, or in some cases from South Korea. So I think your estimate of the increased prices is probably pretty accurate. I've heard numbers ranging from 2,000 or 3,000 to maybe 12 or 15 for the really large SUVs and small trucks. And this is a huge change because up until recently, a car or an SUV, not a truck, but a car or an SUV only paid a duty of about 2.5%. And now, of course, it's increased by a great amount. So I think it's going, ultimately, it not only affects consumers, people like you and me who want to buy a new car, but it affects the number of cars that will be made in the U.S. because as prices go up, fewer Americans have the ability to take out a new car loan or pay the increased prices. And because American car makers have a double whammy, they're paying new high duties on parts and components, but they're also paying much higher costs for steel and aluminum and copper. U.S. auto production will become unproductive, which means that exports will probably decline as well.
But given the information that you just told us, have some of these U.S. manufacturers positioned themselves domestically better than others? And which ones would you say are the ones that have done that?
Well, I'm not sure it's been a lot of positioning. There have been a few changes. Ford, I think, assembles more of its vehicles in the U.S. Than either Chrysler, Stellantis, or General Motors, both of whom heavily dependent on Mexico and also depend on Canada, and again, in the case of GM, on South Korea. So they're probably a bit better off. Some factories that GM has have excess capacity, so they can easily move a few tens of thousands of vehicles production to the U.S. and employ a few more people. But for most companies, if they decide that they are going to increase their factory output in the U.S., it's going to take 2 or 3 years before they can actually do that. Honda's doing this with their Civic, but they say it won't be ready for additional production until 2027. So in the short term, the manufacturers have basically two choices. They can either absorb the costs, which many of them are doing up to now, but this won't last forever, or they can increase the prices that they're charging to their customers. Redoing the supply lines is potentially possible, but it takes a long time. And since Mr. Trump has imposed tariffs on almost everything coming from almost every country, there's a question of where are you going to move your sourcing where you're actually going to save a significant amount of money. So it puts the auto industry, whether domestically owned or foreign owned, in a very difficult position.
Mr. Gantz, I have a question. If all this continues and the prices go up and they can't absorb anymore, the financial advisors have always said if you can buy a really good car that's just a couple of years old, that somebody else has taken the hit on as they drove it off the lot new, you're in better shape. So would this would certainly increase the used car market, or would it? Would the used car market say, yeah, everybody wants a used car, so we're just going to make it more expensive?
My guess is that many Americans will say, I don't want to buy I don't want to buy a new car. I believe the reports that you're quoting that a 2 or 3 or 4 year old used car, maybe one coming off a lease, is a better deal. The thing is, the used car and the new car markets are related. If new car prices go up, good used cars will go up in price as well. So you will save something. But you may not save as much as you would have a year ago. Plus, the interest rates on loans for used cars tends to be a point or two higher than for new cars. So the savings may not be as great as some people would hope.
And I'm just assuming leasing a car would probably have the same increase.
I think overall, leasing a car basically means you don't have to have a big down payment, and you may get smaller payments. Typically, you put up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 up front, and then you make monthly payments, which are shorter, smaller than they would be if you took out a loan for 3 or 4 years. But at the point where the lease is up, let's say after 3 years, everything's gone. You don't get anything back.
Right.
Now, David, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Well, I was going to say, does the Trump administration plan to maintain these tariffs or modify them? Are lobbyists pushing for reduction or outright removal? Because we have seen him go back and forth on certain tariffs.
If you can figure out what the Trump administration is doing, you're doing a lot better than I am.
Touche, David. Touche.
My sense is that the current auto tariffs, except maybe for Mexico and Canada, and I think both countries are trying to negotiate them down to the 15% level so they're competitive with the Europeans and Korea and Japan. My sense is that these tariffs are going to be around for a long time. There may be some adjustments, but I think the auto industry worldwide has probably figured out by now that despite the efforts of its lobbyists, Mr. Trump simply isn't going to budge. I mean, the idea of having more cars sold in the U.S., made in the U.S., goes back to his first administration and his negotiation of the USMCA. And what he's doing now is putting a lot more pressure on companies that want to sell cars in the U.S., which is pretty much everybody, to produce more of them, or at least assemble more of them in the U.S., and to source more of the parts and components in the U.S. And to some extent, I think he will be successful. But there's a lot of pain for the auto companies, and there's a lot of pain for us as consumers.
And so when we look at the Trump administration's intent of bringing back that manufacturing, will these auto companies be able to actually do that? I mean, you mentioned a 2 to 4 year, looking at Honda, 2 to 4 year type timeline. It seems like it might take a lot longer than 2 to 4 years.
I think you're quite right. And obviously, before an auto company, whether it's domestic or foreign, and keep in mind, we have more than a dozen foreign auto companies that already produce substantial numbers of cars in the U.S. I think for many of these companies, there's a real decision. Do we put hundreds of millions or billions of dollars into establishing or expanding our factory operations in the U.S.? Money that needs a 10, 15, 20-year payout, or do we just sort of try to put things together as best we can and hope that these tariffs will go away in, let's say, in 2029? I'm not an optimist on those issues. So I think there's some, as they say, I think there's some short-term issues. I mean, Chevy, for example, makes the Silverado and the GMC equivalent. There are about 1 million sold a year. Half of them typically are made in the U.S. Half of them are assembled, a third in Mexico, and the rest in Canada. They've already said we're going to move 50,000 units from Mexico, presumably to the U.S. They can do that because their factories are not operating capacity, and GM, if my numbers are correct, says that we can do that by hiring another 200 employees, assuming we can find them. So it doesn't really have a big impact at this stage on employment in the auto industry, but it's going to have a big impact because even if they do that, they are still bringing in parts and components from other countries that are subject to high duties if they're not made in the United States.
All right.
In the longer term, if everybody's convinced that this is what the real world is going to look like, I think many of the companies who already manufacture in the U.S. particularly will expand their production.
All right, we're talking to David Gantz about the tariffs and automobiles. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a ring, 713-440-8870. We have a couple of YouTube comments that I want to get to, but I have a question I want to ask, and it's going to really show my ignorance. If, in order not to have any tariffs, does an automobile or truck have to be completely made in the United States? Or is there a percentage?
Prior to the new Trump tariffs, if your auto or SUV, small trucks are different, but if your auto and SUV was made in Canada or in Mexico, and at least 75% of the parts and components were sourced in North America, not necessarily the U.S. and North America, and the steel and aluminum was from North American sources, and your labor costs in 40 or 45% of the production value, or at least $16 an hour, which obviously cuts out Mexico, the vehicles came in duty free instead of paying 2.5% duties.
So that was that part of NAFTA?
It was initially part of NAFTA, but it was changed substantially in USMCA in 2018. The regional content was increased from 62.5% to 75%, and some of the other, and the $16 an hour minimum there was also added. The idea was then, as it is now, to get more production of vehicles and vehicle parts in the U.S. It's just getting much tighter today.
Well, one comment from my British computer guy is, I think we discussed, dealers regardless are going to use the tariffs to increase the pricing and use it as an excuse to get more out of the consumers, and used prices will go up for sure. Do you think that's true? That they would just say, oh.
Well, certainly, from what I can see, there hasn't been any evidence of that. Now, obviously, if GM or Ford or whoever, Toyota, increase the prices they charge to the dealers are going to increase their prices as well. Will some dealers who are independent of the big auto producers decide to try to gouge the public? It's always possible.
Yeah.
But I suspect you won't see very much of that, because typically auto buyers tend to shop around much more than they used to, and it's much easier with the internet sites. So I think if one GM dealer in Houston, for example, tries to add an extra $3,000 to a particular vehicle, your Houston colleagues, citizens, have probably, 4, 5, 6 other GM dealerships where they can shop around and try to get a better deal. So I think it's very hard for the companies to do this, for the dealers to do this.
And 95% of consumers just care about the monthly. How much is this going to cost me a month? And car dealers are very good at being creative about trying to hit your target. If you're $350 a month and that's all you can afford to pay, they'll extend the payments. Mm-hmm. They'll try to give you a break. They'll ask for your bank account and take it out monthly from your bank account. They'll come up with ways, I think, to meet the consumer if they can.
I think that's true, and the key is if they can. It's not the price; it's just the monthly payment. We've already gone to 6, 7, 8 year payments systems to reduce the monthly prices. I think it's hard for dealers to do this, partly because the interest rates are still fairly high. You're probably looking at well over 6%, maybe 7%.
Trump was screaming about that today. Trump was screaming about that today, the interest rates.
Yeah, well, he doesn't yet control the banks. But yes, basically, they all tend to look at what the Fed rates are. Fed supposedly is going to lower the rates by 0.25% sometime this month. But I don't think that's going to have a huge impact on the cost of auto loans or home loans, for that matter. They may come down a little bit, but will they come down enough to offset the additional costs that you're trying to finance?
Now, David, you were quoted in the AP back in March that the tariffs posed an existential threat to North American auto manufacturers. 6 months-ish later, does this still hold true?
Yeah, I think it's clear. I mean, the biggest threat, of course, is to Mexico and Canada if a lot of factories are closed and people are laid off. But we've already seen reports. I don't remember the numbers, but all three of the majors, Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors, have reported multi-billion-dollar losses for the first half of the year. So I think that's a big, very big hit for a business, particularly the GM and Ford, which typically is quite profitable. And I don't see how it's going to get better. I don't believe that they will be able to hold prices down and absorb all the costs eventually. I think you'll see car prices coming up substantially in the next few months and next year. But obviously those decisions are made by management and boards of directors. So I don't know what companies will do, but I guess they will all have to get out of the situation where their profits are so far down.
Do you think that the consumer will just pause on purchasing cars altogether?
Well, it's been interesting because as the tariffs were promised but not fully implemented, or as the major manufacturers were exhausting 60, 90-day inventories, there's been a huge rush to try to get in before the new cars come in that are going to have higher prices. So I suspect the market has been, I think, fairly fairly stable up until at least through August. But the question is if and when the big producers start raising their prices, will it hold? And it adds to interest rates. Many people, I think, these days are a little bit uneasy about their jobs and their future employment. So it just adds one very big factor to somebody's decision to say, well, I'll keep my current vehicle for another year or two, or I'll go try to find a decent price on a good used car rather than buying a new SUV or a new small truck.
David Gantz is the Will Clayton Fellow in Trade and International Economics at Rice University's Baker Institute. David, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Coming up, another installment of Friends of Frank.
Friends of Frank.
Don't want to miss it. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
It's coming up Sunday night at 6 o'clock.
President Trump wants the United States to build more ships. More ships means more mariners to drive them.
I know if I go anywhere over there, I'm going to ground myself. I'm going to hit the bottom.
I'm Kyle Rizdal. We are going for a tugboat ride. Next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. That's coming up later today at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Over the past couple years, demand has gone wild for drugs like Ozempic.
I kind of have to be on this drug. It's not optional for me.
On the next Planet Money, what happens when explosive demand opens the door to a marketplace full of knockoffs? And on the How I Built This advice line, Guy Raz joins entrepreneur Mei Xu to talk to two early-stage founders about the best way to keep their businesses alive.
Saturdays at 9 a.m. on News 88.7.
Councilmember Edward Pollard stepped up to identify funds to support public media in Houston.
Today, I'm excited to announce a contribution of $50,000 each to two pillars of our public broadcasting landscape, KTSU and Houston Public Media.
Councilman Pollard joins thousands who recognize the value of fact-based, non-biased journalism, high-quality educational content, and emergency alert communications. Learn how you can help at houstonpublicmedia.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
In today's Friends of Frank, my good friend Karen Winston is back. She's a licensed master social worker, a clinical assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, and former psychotherapist to the Houston Texans. Those young men are under a mound of stress and face new challenges each season. Here to talk about that is my friend Karen Winston. All right, another edition of Friend of Frank, and I'm with Karen Winston, a real friend of Frank, for a long time. And this time, I want to talk to Karen about one of the roles she had for 13 years, which was the team counselor for the Texans. Now, is that like a life coach, Karen? What is a team
life
counselor?
Coaches usually aren't licensed, so I would say no.
So but you have a psychologist degree.
I have a degree in social work from the University of Houston.
Okay.
Masters of social work.
And you also work with Baylor College of Medicine.
I'm a professor at Baylor College of Medicine.
So you walk the walk.
I walk the walk.
You got the receipts.
You got the receipts and have the license, which is important to have a license because it really informs you how to be.
So
ethically.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, but how did you become a team counselor for the Texans?
So a colleague of mine was working with the Astros, and the Texans called the Astros and said, hey, is your guy available for us also? And he said, no, I can't take on two teams, but I know the exact right person. And the reason he knew that is because he knew he had referred professional athletes to me, and he knew I was very comfortable with working with professional athletes. So that's how it happened.
And so why did the Texans feel that they needed a team counselor?
Well, the NFL mandated initially that every single team had a licensed therapist to teach the rookies as they came in, to help them navigate this huge new role they had in the NFL. And so I was chosen to do that. So I was actually paid by the NFL for my first, 4 years. And then the Texans decided to hire me because the NFL was really saying every team needs a therapist. And there was a lot of pushback from teams for many years, like, we don't need this. And then once I was there, and I was already there because I was teaching all the rookies every year, it worked beautifully. I mean, it was a very natural progression, and I had very little pushback at the beginning once they hired me, and it turned into a great relationship.
So it would be obvious that kids, and I say kids because they're 20, 21 coming into this.
The rookies are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into this environment. First of all, there's going to be the stress and the pressure of being a professional athlete. That's got to be enormous. But what else? I mean, they come into a lot of money and all that goes with that, maybe a lot of family pressure. What kind of challenges do these kids face?
Yeah. First of all, one size doesn't fit all. Yes, it's a lot of money from where their peers are. But from the practice squad to the number 1 draft pick, there's a huge variance in the kind of money they make. I think there's so many stressors, but one that's going on right now, as we're here in the summer and fall talking about football, when the roster goes from 90 that are in training camp to 53, all the guys are going to get cut that don't make the 53 roster. And then what happens to them? They're trying so hard. And then on the day they go to the 53-man roster and all those guys are cut from every team, it's the same thing. They're scrambling to try to get into the NFL or stay. Well, then guess what? So, Frank, you made the 53-man roster. This is a Tuesday. You are high-fiving. You're going out to dinner with your friends and family. You went, oh, my God, I made it to the NFL, or I get to keep my job. You come in the next day, they go, Frank, you're out. You went, wait, you just picked me yesterday. Go, sorry, we changed our mind. We got someone else today. Someone got released on another team. We want them. So then you don't have a job. So then what happens? Cincinnati calls you, the Bengals. You go, we want you up here, Frank. You go up there. You're there 2 weeks. Your family's still here. You're going, oh, maybe I'll move there. They release you. They go, Frank, sorry, we're bringing someone else in. You come back to Houston. Texans call you. They say, Frank, we really like you. We're putting you on the practice squad. You're not going to suit up for games, but you're going to practice with us. You're kind of the men in waiting, right? Oh, my God, I got to salary him in the practice squad. Well, the practice squad works like this. Any team can steal you, but your team gets the choice of moving you to the big roster or letting you go. You could move in one season 8 times easily. Your family, if you're married or with kids or own a house, you don't know where you're going to be in those first 4 years. It can happen all the time. It can happen to guys under contract too. But when you have a guaranteed contract like in Houston, the number 1 and number 2 draft picks, otherwise, you don't know. It is the most unstable business and unpredictable and difficult, and the stress is unimaginable. I have such high regard for these men, what they go through. Not to mention what you said, family wanting money. Oh, now you're rich. Are girls going after you for your money, for who you are? 1,000%. Yeah, you don't know who's real, who's not, who really cares about you, who doesn't.
I had no idea. And you're talking about the first 4 years. And this isn't just the first year.
Because it's not guaranteed. Your contract is not guaranteed. You get guarantee money, but your contract is not guaranteed.
All right. So you go into a classroom with these young men who are facing all of this.
Uh-huh.
And what do you write on the blackboard? What in the world do you tell them?
Well, first of all, no blackboard. Everything we talk about is confidential. Number one rule. They can say what's going on in the classroom with themselves, but no one else. So we have to have a safe place, most important. And I have the NFL gave us a curriculum, but we talk about money, financial education. We talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships. And, now I'm no longer at the Texans. I was there 13 years, but I'm 17 years of working with athletes of all different areas. And I can tell you stories that you just can't imagine how targeted these guys get by people. And how my job in the classroom was to help them know some of these stories and have their eyes wide open.
Before something bad happens to them.
Yes. And I cannot tell you how many of my former players either call me, still see me, I run into, will say, okay, Karen, so I got in the class and I was so bummed I had to spend an hour in a classroom because they're tired by the time they got to my classroom in the afternoon. And they'd go, and you gave us examples of things that could happen in families when you get money. And I sat there and said, not my family. And he goes, I've had two guys tell me this. It happened exactly as you said it in my family. I couldn't believe it. I just knew it would never happen, meaning family becoming gold diggers, having high expectations, big pressure, people you've never met coming out of the closet.
And this is just my question is, do you talk to them about how to handle the public? Because I've been in elevators with a number of athletes around Houston. There are a lot of athletes around Houston. Occasionally you run into them.
Yeah.
And they're casually, like Jose Altuve, very friendly, very nice. Will take a quick selfie in public. But if you get on an elevator with them, they're very quiet. It's almost like they are told, love your public, be polite, but not sincere.
No one tells them that.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, be guarded.
Well, everyone's got a personality, and you've got a very outgoing personality. So you're a public figure. If you're on an elevator, you're probably going to say hi to anyone that talks to you. But if you're not outgoing, if you're more introverted, or more socially kind of like unsure of yourself, that would make sense because you're in a box.
Yeah.
But when you see these guys at training camp, most of them will go sign autographs, but not everybody, because everyone's different. And as you become known as an Astro, a Rocket, a Texan, people want something from you. Could be an autograph, that they want to tell you who they know, or they want to critique your job, Frank. I can't tell you how hard it is for these men. Think about this. You've been on TV. If you get on social media, you probably saw people critique you doing the weather or Hello Houston. Well, every Sunday, people critique their job.
Sure.
You understand? We don't go through that, those of us that aren't like you and the Texans. But these young men are busting their guts.
Their helmets.
Their helmets to do the best they can. And people have the audacity to put them down and, try to tell them what they're doing right or wrong. Now, they can say, gosh, I wish you would have, tackled better, or I know you're working on it. But no, it's none of that. It's, name calling and ugliness. And then there's the women trying to get favors from them, trying to date them. And there's women that are trying to get pregnant by them. So they have a paycheck.
What is the number one pitfall that they'll almost always fall into if someone like you doesn't warn them?
The number one, You mean what could be dangerous to them?
Well,
what
yeah.
could be
what's the stumbling
problematic?
block? The first stumbling block. I've got money. I've got a big job. I'm a pro athlete.
That's the stumbling block. I have money and I have a job. NFL, not for long.
Right. You think that it's
That's
there.
the stumbling block. I mean, you look at some very famous players that had guaranteed contracts, and it didn't go well for them. They got a little big for themselves. And I think that anyone without a guaranteed contract has to be careful. And with a guaranteed contract, you have to be careful about your behavior, your conversation. You represent your city, your team, your family, your state, and the NFL. You are a representative. And it's like you being here representing NPR. That's who you represent. And I think that these young men have to really pay attention to behavior and watching who they walk with, who their crew is, who their homeboys are. Because you have these homeboys that are not healthy. You get in the NFL, the homeboys know you have money, you're running with them, and you're getting arrested. It happens every year to these young men because they go, oh, but they're my homeboys. I knew them. They were great.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but they're carrying weapons or they're doing something illegal and you're riding with them. That's a pitfall. You've got to really adjust. What's my focus? What are my morals? What are my ethics? Who do I walk with?
You're really the den mother.
Yes. I love being their den mother. I think these men are amazing. I truly admire them. And it was just so much of a pleasure to work with these men.
I guess now all teams have some sort of counselor.
They do.
Have you written the book yet?
Nope. I've given the speeches, though, like I'm doing here. I love to talk to groups about my topic is what's really going on the inside of the NFL.
And so now that they're getting back on the field,
mm-hmm.
what have they been doing all summer?
Relaxing and working out.
So that's sort of their life.
Well, if you don't work out in the summer, you might not make the team. When you get in 100-degree heat and you've got pads on, coaches know immediately who's not been working out.
Do they go with a playbook of workouts, like here's what you're expected to do every day? Or do they just say, work out all summer, we'll see you in the fall?
Work out all summer. But they've been, if they've been in college, they have their college routine. Every team has professional trainers. So they know what they've been doing. Some guys get together. Some guys from different teams get together and work out. Like they'll go somewhere and work out for the summer or for a few weeks or a month. So these are professionals. And if you have a professional mentality, you're making sure you have vacation, you're resting your body, and you're keeping it in shape, you're eating well. You know, this is really important. I mean, you don't have long to be in this profession.
True.
Yeah. I mean,
so it pays well up
you're
front.
lucky if you make it 3 years. You're really lucky.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken a life lesson from them?
Oh, 1,000. I mean, yes. First of all, their ability to handle the stress has helped me so much because I watch, you know, can you imagine you've got a locker in the locker room. You've made it to the NFL, and you've watched 8 men come in and out to the locker next to you. How do you manage that fear? How do you manage when you want something so bad and it may not happen for you? We've all felt that, I think. I speak for myself. But many of us have felt like we wanted something so bad, and it just didn't happen. And how do you manage that grief, that loss, that expectation? And I watch these young men manage. Oh, my goodness. They're amazing. They're just amazing.
Wow. So who's your favorite team?
Huh. Gosh, Frank, that's a hard question. Can I get back to you? Listen, I think the Texans are on the right track right now. They're doing a great job. They have a tremendous head coach. and general manager and Cal and Hannah are really being thoughtful about how they think about this $6 billion company holistically. And I say it that way because they've really beefed up the mental health part of this business, and I'm really proud of them. I think it's amazing what they're doing.
Well, go Texans. Yeah. All right, Karen Winston, thank you for being a friend of Frank.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much. All right, that was Karen Winston, a licensed master social worker, a clinical assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, and former psychotherapist to the Houston Texans. Thanks for listening to the latest installment of Friends of Frank.
That was really interesting, Frank. Was there anything that Karen said that was pretty shocking to you to hear about her role with the Texans?
No, I think I've talked to her a lot about it.
Sure.
and what these guys go through. I not shocking, but it really opened my eyes because we all see the team, right? And the team goes on the field and we root them on and they play and they do their best and they win or lose. They're our guys, right?
Right.
We never think about what's going on in their head because we think, well, they have money, they have stature, they have a team, they're on a team. We never think, well, gosh, they could be let go at any moment.
That's right. And the process to get on that field, to be picked, that's what I found very interesting when she started talking about, there's no guarantee. They go through these camps and these training and they could get cut.
And that's a lot of what we talked about, obviously. But, they also come into a lot of money.
Yeah,
a lot of them for the very first time. So not only the pressure of how to deal with that, but now they have family. And
yes.
Suddenly long-lost cousins are coming on board. Mm-hmm. So you've got that. And then you have people wanting their money, one way or another. And they have to, like all of us. And it's and all they want to do is play football. That's the main thing they want to do, right? It's just play football. And so they have to deal with a lot of real life. So Karen was a really successful, I called her a life coach. She's more than that, obviously. But I think she was a really good go-to person for them.
Well, that was a great episode of Friends of Frank. And if you want to see more Friends of Franks, you can head to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Houston Public Media, and you will find more episodes. You've had some great conversations. But, coming up, we're going to have another great conversation because the Texans kick off their regular season this Sunday in Los Angeles against the Rams. And we're going to be talking to Charlie Pallilo, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that. Yeah. And just a few minutes ago, we were talking about automobiles and the industry and tariffs, which, Frank, you're in.
Well, I keep my cars about 6 to 8 years.
Okay, and you're in that. Yeah, you're going to buy a car.
Right. I try to drive them until the wheels fall off, but usually 6 to 8 years. And the one I have now, I got in 2018. And so it's coming up on it. Yeah. I mean, while it still has some value to it,
sure,
traded in for something. But now I'm more than anything, I'm kind of looking around.
Right.
Carefully, not only at the price, but the luxury, the bang for the buck, and I'm Googling where are they made.
And that's so interesting, right? Now we're asking our questions that before you would just be like, I like this car. It has, the air conditioning seats. I like the color. And now we're like, where was this manufactured? Where are the door handles coming from?
Yeah. I mean, it's really brought our good, bad, or indifferent. The tariffs have brought attention to the American worker. Did America have some part of this?
I think this presidential administration has brought a lot of Americans to the forefront looking at multiple areas of our life.
Yeah, the 25%, I didn't realize that's steep for Canada and Mexico. And a lot of some manufacturers like Lexus, I found out, they manufacture some cars entirely in the United States, but others that they sell in Japan, others in Canada entirely. Wow. So that's why I was trying to ask, is there a percentage that has to be made?
Interesting. And coming up, we'll talk with podcast host, like I just said, Charlie Pallilo, about the new Houston Texans season, which starts Sunday. And stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. We've got lots more to chat about.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own. and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
It's a nice day, lots of sunshine. We'll get up to about 95 this afternoon. It's 88. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll speak with podcast host Charlie Pallilo, who will break down the new Houston Texans season, which starts on Sunday. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also be joined by Jan-Luc Blakborn, board co-chair for Team Houston, who'll tell us about preparations for the upcoming FIFA World Cup.
Plus, we'll also share a list of events happening this weekend in Houston for our regular Friday feature, Last Minute Plans.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the big orange banner.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Employment figures for the month of August were weaker than expected. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that 22,000 jobs were added last month. The expectation was for more than 3 times that. Housing is one of the most significant financial pressures on families, and the state of Utah is reimagining the starter home. NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports.
The goal is 35,000 starter homes in 5 years, priced under $400,000. The aim is to help young people like Miranda Potiker.
We'd make jokes like, what was I doing in 3rd grade? I should have been buying a house instead of learning, multiplication.
After 2 years in her grandparents' basement saving up, she and her husband did buy a starter home from developer Jed Nielsen.
Yeah, maybe I'll make less money per home, but I'm going to fix a societal problem.
Builders get below-market loans, but land here's expensive, and 1 year in, the state's behind its goal. To give a boost, lawmakers have expanded the program to starter condos. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Plain City, Utah.
U.S. immigration officials say they have conducted their largest ever single-site raid at a Hyundai vehicle plant near Savannah, Georgia. Emily Jones of member station WABE has more.
475 people were arrested in the raid at a construction site for a battery plant. Homeland Security Special Agent in charge Steve Schrenk stressed that agents were executing a search warrant.
This has been a multi-month criminal investigation where we have developed evidence, conducted interviews, gathered documents, and presented that evidence to the court in order to obtain a judicial search warrant.
South Korea expressed concern and regret over the raid, which a spokesperson for the country's foreign ministry said included the detention of several South Korean nationals. U.S. officials announced no criminal charges, but said the investigation is ongoing. For NPR News, I'm Emily Jones in Savannah, Georgia.
The New York Times is reporting that in his first White House term, President Trump authorized a secret mission in North Korea in which Navy SEALs would plant a device to monitor Kim Jong-un's communications. New York Times correspondent David Phillips told NPR's Morning Edition that mission went awry.
They were expecting the shore to be empty. When they reached this area, instead they encountered a boat that started flashing lights down at the submarines. And the SEALs, who were on the shore watching this, didn't know what to do. And so they opened fire and killed everybody on the boat.
He reports that publicly North Korea has been silent about the episode. On Wall Street at this hour, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 244 points. The NASDAQ is off 55 points. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The STAR test will soon be phased out. Lawmakers have given final approval to a bill that changes the way students are tested. The key component of the bill is that it requires students to take 3 shorter tests spaced out over the year as opposed to 1 single test. Representative Brad Buckley says the change was needed.
This bill ends the STAR test. It creates a very much different system that is way less high stakes for our students.
Governor Abbott is expected to sign the bill. It would go into effect starting in 2027. The city of Sugar Land has entered into an official partnership with the FIFA World Cup's host committee in Houston. 7 soccer games will be held in Houston next summer. News 88.7's Natalie Weber has the details.
Elizabeth Huff has fond memories of watching the World Cup with her father as a child. Now, she's helping the city of Sugar Land partner with the World Cup's Houston Host Committee. Huff serves as Sugar Land's Executive Director of Economic Development. Through its partnership, Sugar Land will host watch parties and offer youth development and volunteer opportunities.
There's so much excitement around soccer and World Cup, even if you're not a huge soccer fan. People know what it is and they know that it's coming.
The city is setting aside $2.5 million in sales and hotel taxes to pay for the sponsorship agreement. It will allow the city to obtain licensing rights, hold watch parties, and have its logo included in host committee materials. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
Governor Abbott is directing the Department of Public Safety to enforce a federal rule requiring English proficiency among truckers. DPS was directed to stop issuing intrastate commercial driver's licenses for people with limited English. The move follows an executive order issued in June by President Trump. The manager of a local manufacturer that makes skincare products is facing felony charges after he allegedly spilled a bad batch of coconut lotion into a sewage line connecting to White Oak Bayou. Immaculate Lab allegedly dumped 100 gallons of the lotion into the waterway. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy and helping clients find balance. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists for online therapy from anywhere at betterhelp.com/public.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for tuning in. Ernie's still out on vacation, but today is September 5th.
There you go, 2025. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
It's nice to be here on a Friday, too. You know, we talked about the 4-day work week yesterday.
We did.
I think I got used to it since we were off Monday.
I could definitely get used to it.
I liked it. You know, it's hot out there.
It is hot.
And sunny today, sunny tomorrow. There's a 20% chance for a quick shower tomorrow. It's Sunday, which will be a good find a sports bar and watch the game day.
Yes, yes.
Sunday has a 60% chance of rain. And then we're back to sunshine on Monday. So there's just one little bit of tropical moisture trying to wrap around from Mexico.
Any chance that little rainfall will cool things down?
No, it'll steam things up.
Of course.
Sorry.
Of course. But coming up on Hello Houston, board co-chair for Team Houston is Jan-Luc Blakborn. We'll talk about preparation for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. But first, the headlines. The Texans kick off the regular season this Sunday in Los Angeles against the Rams. Kickoff is at 3:25. Joining to talk about the upcoming season is Charlie Pallilo. He has been a staple of Houston sports radio for decades and is the master of cerebral sports talk. You can check out Charlie and his Stone Cold Strohs podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Charlie, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, Charlie.
Appreciate the invitation. What do you know about weather?
What do you know about sports?
It's a sliding scale depending on who you ask.
Exactly. That's same with me.
And speaking of ask, if you have any questions for Charlie, give us a call, 713-440-8870. You can also text that number, 713-440-8870.
You excited for Sunday?
Well, look, if you are a fan, of course you should be optimistic. They're a two-time defending division champion, been to the playoffs 2 years in a row, won a playoff game each of those 2 years. I think generally speaking, the dynamics have shifted with all the Astros success of the last nearly decade now, but football is king if everything is equal. So the anticipation for football, one of the big things with football, whether you're a collegiate fan or a pro fan, each game is an event because it's once per week. Now, I love baseball. It's probably my first and last love. But each game, when you play 162 of them, is not going to bring the buzz, the hype.
The tailgating.
Each football game, right, the full-blown tailgating.
Yeah.
And so the Texans have the components of a team that could be tremendous. They are in the tougher conference of the two.
I do have one question really quickly before we jump into the Texans, because I think that you mentioned something that I find so interesting. Charlie, do you think, you mentioned collegiate football sports fan and a pro sport football sports fan. Do you think you could be an equal fan, have love for both college and pro football equally?
Sure. And I suppose we should add that college football is pro football now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true.
It's all above. There are college players making well more than the minimum salary that NFL players make.
Yeah.
But if you have the blood is thicker than water, the tie, if you are a Longhorn or you are an Aggie or a Buckeye or a Wolverine or anywhere else, those are the ties that bind for life. And so college fans who root for their school or have a family affiliation, or if you happen to live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're probably going to root for Michigan if no member of your family ever attended the university.
Yeah.
But in a pro town, the pro teams overwhelmingly come first, unless they stink. And unfortunately, we do not have a team here that stinks.
I grew up in Birmingham, and so we had Alabama and Auburn. And those were it was college.
Big
and at the time, Tennessee did not have the Titans, and Mississippi did, still in Arkansas. So pro football, Atlanta Falcons are about as close as we got. So it was all about college.
Yeah.
And, of course, high school's big here, too.
Sure.
All right, let's talk about these Texans. They didn't do so well last year. I love C.J. Stroud. I don't know him, but I've met him, and he's a super nice guy. And I think he's a pretty good quarterback. But he's got to have an offense to play well. He's got to have confidence that he's protected, that everybody's going where they're supposed to go. Do you think that things have changed? We have a new offensive coordinator. So do you think that's going to help?
The overarching question about this team really is the same as it's been the last couple of years. And really probably for the majority of this is their 24th season of play. So different regime. The offensive line. Too often in their passing game last season, the play was CJ drop back to pass and then run for your life or duck. He has Nico Collins, who is an elite wide receiver if he can just stay healthy all season. They drafted 2 wide receivers in the second and third round they think should give them more diverse weaponry. Big question with their best running back, Joe Mixon, who has a foot problem, is not going to play at least the first 4 games of the season. It might be a lot longer than that. But the offensive line, you can have great furniture and art, but if the foundation is lousy, your home's value is only going to max out so highly.
Yeah.
Right. And, this team, forgive me, but this team has been in bad shape a few years. A few years ago with several coaching changes in a matter of just a few years. And among football fans, that's been kind of tough. And we've been looking at our leadership. And when we're looking at the hiring of D'Amico Ryans, do you think that has changed the trajectory of this team?
No question, because by the end of the Bill O'Brien reign of error, any change for the sake of change would have been welcomed here. And in D'Amico's first 2 seasons, they've gone 10-7, won the AFC South each year. But I would note that being the tallest Lilliputian does not make you a giant. The AFC South has been lousy the last couple of years. The Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the bar has been low for the Texans to be the best among their 4 teams in their division and get to the playoffs. They've had a home playoff game that they've won, then have had to go on the road and not come close to winning either of those 2 games. Somewhat competitive in Kansas City last season, but there was no question the Chiefs were a much superior team. So do the Texans have a step to elevate to true contention status? They're in the AFC, where there is no doubt going into the season, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Baltimore Ravens are flat out better than the Texans. Have been, are, and until the Texans demonstrate otherwise, will be. So can they shatter that glass ceiling, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to Karen Winston in our last segment, and she gave kudos to the ownership. The McNairs have really sort of come forth and are more visible. They're really watching out for the guys' mental health. They've got a lot going on there. Do you think that's helping with public perception that we're hanging in with those Texans because we like the owners, or no play?
There's an expression that winning is the best deodorant. And so you can be philanthropic and charitable and kiss babies and hug little old ladies.
Yeah.
If you go 6-11, you're a bum. Get new ownership. Fire the coach. Trade this player. Release that player. But they've regained credibility in their overall operation. And Cal McNair, there's going to be a variety of opinion, which pretty much is the case about any public figure.
Right.
But he is an affable guy and has been more front-facing the last 2 years. Not coincidentally, because they have been winning more. But it can grow stale. Being pretty good for a lot of fans grows kind of stale, who can forget that being pretty good while not being great, and the goal, especially in a city, there are only 4 franchises that have never been to a Super Bowl. The Texans are the most recent to enter the league in 2002. It's not like they're the Detroit Lions, who've been here since there have been Super Bowls, and they're 0 for 59. But the Texans also have not reached an AFC championship game. They're the only AFC franchise other than this version, the second version of the Cleveland Browns, to not get that far. So for some fans, what have you done for me lately? If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. But 10-7, winning one playoff game and losing the second one, that's not like going 3-13-1 or 4-13 as they strung together 3 seasons where football nearly died professionally in this city.
Okay, Charlie, but now we're going to look at the roster, and the Texans have a core of good young players anchored by C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson Jr., and guys like receiver Nico Collins and cornerback Derek Stingley. I sound really good, don't I?
I know, they've got great names.
Yes. Is the future looking pretty good for this team right now?
Not sure why you need me here, the way you're knocking them off there. The defense has a
Charlie,
chance.
you're buttering me
The
up.
defense has a chance to be truly great, as in right at the top of the NFL great. Will Anderson, young player, blossoming superstar. Stingley, probably one of the 2 or 3 best cornerbacks, cover guys in the NFL. And the third superstar level player who was a free agent addition before last season, Danielle Hunter, who's 30 years old, still should be in his peak prime. The Texans extended his contract for the 2026 season. So those are 3 players who probably rate among the top 15 to 20 defensive players in the entire NFL. The defense, barring calamitous injuries, is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the offense, and we circle back to that offensive line. Right. C.J. Stroud, maybe a little bit had the yips. If you're always, that little mental clock, 1,000, 2, I better get rid of the ball, or I better get out of here. But C.J.'s play also fell off after an historically magnificent rookie season. He was not as good in season 2. Well, life and progress in all walks of life, unless you're really, really fortunate. It's not linear. You're not just going to get better, and then win the Super Bowl or wherever your maximum point of success is. So if he had to take a step back to now take a further step forward, that's in play for the Texans. It's a quarterback league. It's not as if you have a great quarterback. It guarantees your team greatness, but without a great quarterback, you have no chance at greatness. And C.J. Stroud gives them that opportunity, but he is not entering the season in the first cast of quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. If at the end of the season we can fairly say, hey, C.J. Stroud belongs sitting at the head table with those guys, it will mean the Texans have had an outstanding season.
Charlie, you said max of success would be like a Super Bowl. What do you think the max of success is going to be for the Texans this season?
Where's my magic 8 ball? They really, I think, need to somehow take advantage of playing 6 division games in a soft division. Load up on those. They have 9 home games, only 8 road games. So there are a couple things about their schedule. They have to finish better than 10-7. There's nothing about this team that suggests it can go on the road in January and win 2 playoff games consecutively in Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, where you're dealing with Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift. So if they can get to where they would have 2 home playoff games, which if you have the second best record in the league would secure you that, then if you only have to win 1 road game, and oh my goodness, you're in the Super Bowl, That would greatly enhance their chances. I think overall, they project still as good, not great, but that's why you go out and play the schedule and see if you can outperform the expectations of smart Alex like me.
You talked about the home games. How's home doing? Was it the stadium, NRG, asking for a bunch of money to fix things up?
Yeah.
What happened
Look,
with that?
it laid low. If they make a run to the Super Bowl, I bet you we'll hear a lot more about that. It's still a wonderful facility. You're always going to look for upgrades, and they all look around and see, well, here's a newer stadium, or they just put $400 million in refurbishments into that stadium. So it needs a facelift, perhaps. I don't think reconstructive surgery. And, this is way above all our pay grades and negotiation points. But that they absolutely will need a new facility within the next 5 years, I don't buy that. But it is now a quarter century old, and you look around the NFL and the public-private partnership of tax dollars that go in, it happens everywhere. They do it because they can, but I don't think there's a stalking horse other market if it got ugly, which is how the Oilers wound up moving to Tennessee. Look, the Texans are printing money. Mm-hmm. The NFL at large is printing money. They're ultimately going to have zero interest in vacating the fourth and in another 15 years, third largest city in the country to move to Portland, Oregon, or some other much smaller market just because they'll build you a stadium, but your overall revenue potential is much, much smaller.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Charlie Pallilo, the master of cerebral sports talk. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870.
Yeah, so you brought up the Oilers. They left a long time ago. Do you think we've healed from that? Have you healed from that?
Yeah, well, as an impartial media observer, I've never let myself live and die with the team results. I always want the team to be good and fun to follow and talk about, getting to lead a life where it's a mall. I live in the toy store. But if they have a bad season, I'm not going to let it ruin my winter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There are some of the older diehards who are still Titans fans, and hey, all power to them if that's where your roots are. So when they move to Tennessee, I'm going to stick with my team. The kerfuffle over the use of the Titans wearing the Columbia blue uniforms against the Texans last year, that was a clear jab and twist. If you want to call it petty, so be it.
Below the belt.
But
felt a little below the belt.
It was petty. It was petty.
Yeah.
But, it is sports, and it's a huge deal and all kinds of jobs and a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, but it's not about peace in the Middle East or Ukraine, Russia, where people should get so distraught or angry over team results or any of the ancillary elements that it's truly negatively impacting your life.
Okay, so there's a big question mark at running back heading into the season with Joe Mixon's health a bit of a mystery right now. Yeah. Should fans be nervous about the running game at all?
Yes. Mixon was excellent last season when healthy. As we discussed earlier, he'll miss a minimum of the first 4 games of the season. They signed a veteran away from the Cleveland Browns named Nick Chubb, who's about 30 years old, which in NFL age for a running back is getting a little gray in the beard.
Ouch, Charlie.
He's also had a couple of calamitous injuries, to use calamitous twice. So they can't envision him as a heavy-duty back. They had Dameon Pierce, who's been around here going into his 4th season now. They drafted in the 4th round a pass-catching threat named Woody Marks. They would miss Mixon, but he was not a superstar running back. And one more time, it's about the offensive line. In the run game, in pass protection, but especially if the running game declines because of no Joe Mixon and you're going to have to throw the ball more, well, you're going to have to protect C.J. Stroud, who, by the way, is going to be coming up for a contract extension after the season, probably in the $60 million per season range.
Wow. He better win.
Yeah.
We expect a lot out of that for $60 million. We did have Cosme Garcia on YouTube say, I will not support a bond for a new stadium. The Texans can move to Dallas, LOL.
That's right. And we also have another
Yeah, what do you think
question.
about the Astros, Charlie? We've got about a minute left here.
They're scuffling, but the Seattle Mariners and Texas Rangers, the teams trying to chase them down, not so good themselves. The Astros will have to fold if they're to not make it to the playoffs. They are going on a 10-game road trip now. They've been on the road this season. They should hold on and at least get into the postseason. And while this team is nowhere near as good, certainly as the two World Series winning teams, but everything from 2017 forward, basically, if you get into the postseason, you're shooting dice, where they're best of 3, best of 5, best of 7 series, where teams that are truly inferior to the teams that they're facing in the short, the house always wins in the Las Vegas casinos over the long run, but someone can sit down at the table and for an hour make huge money. But if you play for weeks on end, the house is going to win. Over 162 games, the best teams are going to have the best records. Very rarely in this wild card era with expanded playoffs, 8 times actually in 30 years, has the team that's had the best record for the entire season wound up winning the World Series. Get in the tournament. Take your chances.
All right, here's the big question. Is Houston a baseball town or a football town, Charlie?
Who's winning?
Thank
the
you.
Astros have raised the baseball bar, but if they're both great, heaven forbid we ever need to have this referendum.
Okay.
If we had to vote that only one team can still exist, if the Texans were to equal the Astros' success, I think the Texans would win. And let's just throw in, the Rockets have a chance to be a very interesting and good team this coming NBA season.
Thank you, Charlie Pallilo. We're definitely going to have you back. Thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Appreciate being here.
And you can check out Charlie and his Stone Cold Stroh's podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. But coming up on Hello Houston, board co-chair of Team Houston, Jan-Luc Blakborn, will talk about preparations for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
You can hear Milk Street coming up Sunday at 1 p.m.
This week in This American Life. When Angela's family goes on vacation, her dad plans everything. One year, the plan went awry.
I don't think I was particularly traumatized.
Wow, you got hit by lightning.
Like, lightning's not personal. The lightning wasn't like, Angela, you're ugly.
When nature, fate, or the federal government mess with your plans, that's this week.
This American Life. It's on Saturday at 11 o'clock.
It took 7 years, but Tom Tursich tells us what it was like to walk around the world.
Get a taste of what life is like there, and you want a bit of it, but you only have one life, so you got to keep moving.
While Greta Rebus prefers looking for hot springs,
where we can slow down, where we can feel what our body feels like in different temperatures and different minerals.
Join us for the next Travel with Rick Steves.
You can listen tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars. And thank you.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Celestia Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
With the 2026 FIFA World Cup fast approaching, Houston's ready to not just host games, but to empower its business community along the way. Enter Team Houston, a collaborative initiative bringing together commerce and creative leaders under a single goal: unlocking soccer-related opportunities for businesses across the Houston metro area. From fostering awareness and marketing tools to training sessions and networking summits, Team Houston is focused on equipping all kinds of businesses from startups to Fortune 500 firms with the knowledge, resources, and visibility to ride coming World Cup wave. Today, we're joined by Jan-Luc Blakborn, the board co-chair for Team Houston. Jan-Luc, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here on such a wonderful soccer weekend.
Yes, and if you have any questions or comments for Jan-Luc, you can give us a call at 713-440-8870. Okay, so we've been talking baseball and football, and we've been talking all things sports. Tell us about this weekend and what's going on in soccer, Jan-Luc.
Well, so it's funny, right? I mean, so here in the States we talk about football, but in Europe we also talk about football, but it's the real one, right?
Oh.
So,
the real one.
The real one.
Okay,
the real one.
Clearly you're not a Texan. Clearly you're not a Texan. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, Team Houston, right? We are a total independent group of people that decided about a year ago that the Houston business community needs a lot more information on soccer, and then particularly around the World Cup. It was triggered by the World Cup, but the soccer opportunity is here every day. There's soccer happening in the city every day. So what we are trying to do is showcase all these kind of opportunities to the business community, so that they can literally play with the game, so to speak, at any kind of level. Of course, the creme de la creme, the summit of it all, is going to be what's going to happen next summer. The biggest sporting event ever on planet Earth. I'm so excited about that. I mean, I attended the World Cup in Brazil in 2014, and it's unforgettable. So we're going to have all Houstonians and visitors be able to experience the same thing. And that is going to be a memory for life. And we think that for the business community, there are everyday opportunities that they can prepare for that opportunity. It's not only happening next summer, it's happening every day, actually, in the city.
Right. And so what are some of those opportunities? And when you say every day, I mean, we don't necessarily have a soccer game every day. I mean, the World Cup only comes around every 4 years. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So again, the World Cup is going to be fantastic, right? I mean, it's going to be 40 days of stuff. But we have every weekend, we have two professional teams in town, right?
Yes.
We have the Houston Dynamo, we have the Houston Dash. So we have professional soccer going on. We have recreational soccer going on. So there's everyday people playing soccer in the city, because what is not sufficiently maybe known is that Houston is in the United States one of the biggest soccer fan cities there is. We have an estimated 2 million soccer fans in this city that are out there on the fields, recreational, small competitions. We got the youth soccer. We have some of the biggest academies in this city. So there is at all these different levels, there's soccer being played, and therefore at all these different levels, there's opportunity for businesses to support that, right?
What is that opportunity to support that?
So the support can be all kind of things. I mean, you can be a shirt sponsor. You can take your clients to a game, right? So this weekend, Team Houston is organizing our happy hour or mixer together with Cup of Joey at the Houston Dynamo Stadium. What we try to do is bring people to the stadium so that they can see things. So that's one of the opportunities that you have as a business. Take your clients to the game. Right? It doesn't have to be a World Cup game to go to soccer. And so we have those two opportunities in town. You can organize watch parties. You can organize events around soccer. If you're a restaurant, you can organize theme nights. Again, this weekend we have the qualifiers for the World Cup. So there's 6 days of matches going on. So after this, I'm going to Velvet Oak Tavern because we're going to sit there with some people, watch the game, get excited, do some networking. And so that's what we mean, right? I mean, there's everyday soccer opportunity going on. And so for businesses, they can get into the game, so to speak, and I mean, grow over time to maybe being a sponsor of the FIFA, right? So.
I am curious. It's team, T period, E period, A period, M period.
Yep.
Team Houston. What does team stand for?
Fantastic question. So Team Houston has a wonderful meaning, right? So it's not just a funny name. So team stands for T, the trade, T is trade, the international business. So there's a lot of international business opportunities. Then the E stands for enterprise and entrepreneurs, the local business. A stands for advertising and art, the creative side of marketing, and then M stands for media and marketing, the execution side of marketing. And so the Team Houston was created about a year ago between myself and Saoirse Gordon. She's from the UK, so we're both from soccer countries. And we were just sort of like very, call it intrigued, why there was not a lot of knowledge with the business community about the World Cup, right? And you might think, okay, but it's 2 years out. Well, in Europe, I mean, the moment the Olympics were done, everybody started thinking about the World Cup. So if you want to prepare your business well, you need to have time to think about that. So that's why we created Team Houston. And
are y'all working with the host committee here with the FIFA World Cup?
So not directly. I mean, we have obviously reached out. We have offered our activities. I mean, so far we have not. I mean, we are in touch. I mean, we know who the people are. They know who we are. I mean, we're very much also focused on the, let's say, the companies that would not sit in the league of the big sponsorships, right? And so although you mentioned Fortune 500, I mean, we're consciously targeting much more small and medium business, mid-sized businesses, because for those businesses, I mean, they cannot afford these kind of packages, but they can relate to all those people that are going to be in town, right? So our estimate is about 1 million visitors. So we're a little bit more optimistic than the official number. But again, you have 2 million soccer fans day in, day out in the city. So that means you as a restaurant, you can almost use the World Cup as a catalyst to connect, to use the 1 million to get to the 2 million, right? So.
Okay, you're going to think I'm really stupid. But explain to me, like, okay, the World Cup. Does that mean the best Spanish players coming from Spain, the best Italian players coming from Italy? Do they put together their own World Cup team to come compete, or have they won in their country? How did this all get started?
Okay, so the World Cup is, let's say, is the competition where the best country teams play against each other, right? So the global football organization is the FIFA. They organize the tournament, and this is where the crème de la crème of nation teams are going to play against each other. So it's not club teams. We had that World Cup this summer. There was another World Cup, so sometimes maybe a little bit confusing for folks, but that was for club teams, right? So Ajax, PSV, well, they didn't play in this one, but let's say...
Like, are the Dynamo a club team?
So the Dynamo is a club team. Okay. Dynamo is a club team, so they play in the U.S. League or one of the U.S. leagues. So you have club teams, and in the club teams you can have players of different nationalities. Right, but when the Netherlands plays or when England plays, all the players are from that country.
And of the American team, where do they come from? So I know America, but
so the U.S. team is a true U.S. team. So it's U.S. players, and one of the players is actually from the Houston Dynamo.
Okay,
so,
that's
so we have
that can get everybody excited.
What player is that?
Jack McClin. So he's a fantastic player. And you can see him this Saturday here in the stadium.
See?
I knew this would lead me to that.
So you can see this kind of stuff here in town. So you don't have to wait until next summer, right? And on the Dash team, I don't know exactly which players they are, but there are also people in the women's national team, right? Wow. So because don't forget, after the World Cup in 2026, we're going to have the Women's World Cup in 2027. And who is one of the big contenders? The United States.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Jan-Luc Blakborn, the board co-chair for Team Houston, about the upcoming FIFA World Cup. If you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
Speaking of whom, Jacob is on the line from Montrose. Hello, Jacob. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello. I am a worker at NRG Park myself, and I'm at the gate. And at any rate, I have season tickets to the Dynamo for 2026. And I was wondering, Jean-Luc, what can an amazing hourly worker do to help FIFA?
That's a great question. Yes. So
I didn't understand the question.
Jacob, the question that Jacob has for Jan-Luc is that he'd like to know, he works at NRG, and how can he support the World Cup coming to Houston?
So again, the easiest thing, right? I mean, so is for,
or I guess experience it as well.
Yeah. So for anybody to contribute to the World Cup, right? I mean, there's probably, I mean, many ways. I mean, you'll see jobs coming up, and again, go to the FIFA host committee website, go to the Harris County Sports Authority website. They are the official organizations taking care of that. They will show you if there are RFPs or things like that for if you want to do business. For anybody, let's say, in the street, the biggest opportunity that you have is to be a volunteer. And I believe that the number of volunteers is already astronomical. But that those applications, I believe, are still open. So if you want to be part of the thing, that's probably your best.
So where is it going to be played in Houston?
So it's going to be played in Energy Stadium. So that's the
only place.
Sorry, I want to go back really quickly and just say that the application to volunteer for the FIFA World Cup here in Houston is still open. It opened on August 14th. And the volunteer roles include host city ambassador, fan festival support, broadcast services, hospitality and ceremonies, and many more. Jacob, I would also say go watch the games out at a restaurant, at a small business, and purchase, if you can purchase your shirts and your fan gear, get that locally here right in Houston at some of the smaller sports stores.
Yeah, and those are, again, all kind of opportunities that are going to exist. Now, to your question about where is this going to be played, so it's going to be played in the Energy Stadium, which is not going to be called Energy Stadium. It's going to be, I think, Houston Stadium,
Houston Stadium.
Because everything is going to be FIFA template. That's the stadium that has the capacity to do these kind of games. We're going to have 7 games.
In a row, like 7?
So it's going to be, the whole tournament is 39 days. So there's going to be, in the beginning, a lot of games because you have the initial group stages. We have 7 games here in town, including a quarterfinal, which is an absolute honor and fantastic that we have that. I attended the Gold Cup final here, which we had recently, and that was a fiesta total because Mexico won.
Go Mexico!
Yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and we're going to have 7 of those experiences. Then there's going to be the fan zone in East Downtown where people can enjoy when there is not a game going on in the stadium.
Can people tailgate?
So the tailgating is what the intent is, that the tailgate would happen in the fan zone.
In the fan zone.
But we are, so one of the things that we have been trying to do is educate a lot on the fans, because we are, so a lot of people say this is going to be 7 Super Bowls, and we Europeans say, well, it's probably 39 days of World Cup, because you're going to get all kind of nations coming here. Remember, the World Cup is a competition of nations, so you're going to get all kind of nations, all kind of cultures, all kind of languages. So it's going to be an incredible melting pot, and the idea is that a lot of these people are going to hang out in East Downtown, where there's going to be a dedicated fan zone. But they'll probably be all over the city, right? People are going to be here for multiple days, so they're not going to come in for just one game.
But Jan-Luc, I've got to say, you make Houston sound, it sounds very much like we're very diverse, we're a very international city, but it sometimes seems, and maybe this is just the perception, that the Dynamo and Dash don't get as much hype as, for example, the Houston Texans, the Astros. Are we selling out at the Dynamo and the Dash games?
So that is a very interesting question. So there's a lot of dimensions, I think, that would answer that question. So since we started Team Houston, we have been going and to the Dynamo matches. I would say there's work to be done, right? To get more people in the stadium. And so that is maybe a Houston challenge. That's maybe a Dynamo challenge. And the Dynamo challenge is it's always nice when you win. They've not had a lot of wins recently, but last week they were doing great. And so I hope this Saturday they're going to be fantastic again. So yeah, work to be done. But I think in general that those are things that, again, and this is also what we see a role as Team Houston, right? How can we get more people aware of the sport and get excited and go behind your team? Because one of the things that happens in Europe, you're behind your team. Whether or not they lose or win, you're loyal for life to your team. And yes, there is probably maybe some competition from the other sport franchises.
I like how you say other sport franchises.
Yeah. So, no, but
we just talked about those.
Yeah. So, but look at what is happening, right? So we're sitting today in Velvet Oak, right? Velvet Oak Tavern. They are the home for the Barcelona fans. That's one of the biggest fan bases here in town. Barcelona is the #1 fan base in town, right? And then you have maybe Real Madrid, and then you have Liverpool and others. So the sport has a lot of, let's say, subsections of fans here in town. And so one of the challenges will be is how do you get these subsections that are tied to the Liga MX, that are tied to the Premier League? How do you get them excited for our home-based soccer? And I would say there's work to be done, but the fact that we have that is a unique opportunity.
But it sounds like it's not necessarily a cultural thing, right? Within Houston and their fandom. It sounds like this might be from a Dynamo and Dash perspective, that perhaps they are not connecting with the Houston soccer fan.
Yeah, so I wouldn't call myself yet an expert on that connection, right? But
it sounds like, Houstonians are very passionate about soccer.
Absolutely. So I think there is an opportunity still to do more about that. And so one of the cool activities that we're actually launching with the movie creation community, right? Because remember, we have the A and the M in our team. We launched at the Houston Media Conference a short film contest to create short films around soccer stories in Houston.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, because we believe that it is a great opportunity for content creators. We live in a day and age of content creation. Mm-hmm. We live in a day and age where we want to see video, and there are so many fantastic stories to be told. Mm-hmm. So we believe that that is a way also to make that Houston soccer community more visible. And maybe by doing that, we create more, let's say, automatic connections, more visibility, and more interest from the business community also.
And Jan-Luc, if somebody wants to say, hey, I want to connect with you guys, where can they find your information?
Team-Houston.com,
yep.
Right? And then we have there all our events. We have done recently webinars with SCORE to educate businesses, so those webinars on there. We have even for people, if they want to study the soccer fan, we've created a document of 180 pages where we already summarized something like 20 different researches, so you can understand who is the European soccer fan, who is the Latin America soccer fan, who is the U.S. soccer fan, who is the women's soccer fan. It's all in there. You can download it. It's for free because we're very nice people. We try to help.
I'm looking at the site for FIFA right now. It is exciting.
Jan-Luc Blakborn is a board co-chair for Team Houston. Jan-Luc, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
It was a pleasure to be here. And remember, this weekend, it's European qualifiers, it's Latin America qualifiers, it's North America qualifiers. So there's soccer going on every day. And Saturday, we have a match at the Dynamo Stadium.
Go Dynamo. Go Dash. All right, coming up, we'll discuss our last-minute plans. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
You can hear it tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
He was kidnapped by terrorists in Nigeria and survived.
I was scared. I was really, really scared.
He came to the U.S. for asylum. Now he's in ICE detention.
I just feel like here's another second kidnapping, and here we are at the mercy of everybody.
Stories of the people caught up in the ICE raids and the families they left behind on the next Reveal.
Listen to Reveal tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock.
And I call 911. She's like, are you able to open the door for first responders? If not, they're gonna have to break it down. Now I'm in the hallway, naked. I'm a broke college student. I don't have re-hinge your door money.
Join us for stories of clean breaks. That's on the Moth Radio Hour from PRX.
You can hear it tomorrow at noon on News 88.7.
Support comes from the Guide to Good Divorce Seminars presents Family Law for Families with Special Needs, created to help women navigate the divorce process. September 13th at St. Regis Hotel. Registration at guidetogooddivorce.com/radio. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Rice University's Master of Interdisciplinary Studies, providing working adults with a flexible degree plan while engaging with the academic resources of Rice. Details at gls.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To get your comment in on any of today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Celeste Diaz-Sherman and Frank Billingsley.
Is it Friday yet?
It's Friday.
Hello, Houston is
Hello,
back
Houston.
on this Friday.
We had a pretty heavy sports-heavy show today.
It's good for two people who know nothing about sports. We did really well.
We did so well. We'd like to shout out to our executive producer, Jim, and our
He's
Jack
the coach.
Williams for giving us the debrief. They debriefed us.
I am looking at the FIFA.com site, and there are 7 games. They're about every 3 days from June 11th to late July. And we don't yet know what teams will be here.
Right.
But I will say, I didn't want to make this about me, but...
but let me make this about me for a
When
second.
I graduated from college, you probably don't know the book Europe on $5 a Day.
No.
Okay.
I used to watch Rachel Ray at $5 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of the same thing. So there was a big popular book, Europe on $5 a day. I did it on $3.50. So I backpacked through Europe, sleeping on roofs of hotels for, $2 and things like that. But I happened to be in Rome the day that they won the World Cup against Spain.
Oh, my gosh.
Because the city went berserk. And I was like, what is going on? What is going on? And they said, Rome won the World Cup. I'm like, what's the World Cup?
Go Rome! When in Rome.
But, the energy was infectious.
Yes.
And the joy and the fun. This is going to be great for Houston. It really is.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you look at soccer fans, European soccer fans are
rabid.
nuts. I mean, they are like, it is all in. I mean, and you look at the UK, the fans over there, and it's going to be, I think Houston is ready. I don't know if Houstonians are ready.
I hope so. I think we'll get there. We have a year to get there.
I mean, a year feels like that is ticking for such a big event.
Well,
it's for such a big event, Frank.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to change our city. It's going to put us on the map.
We're not on the map?
I mean, well, okay, wait. Okay, right. Let me. Too much
We're
coffee.
not Dallas.
No. Dallas. How dare you talk about
Are they
Dallas
on
on
the
this
map
show? But, okay, so weekend. We are just moments away to our weekend.
What are you doing?
I'm not really doing much this weekend. Last night, I really am not, because this week I had a really packed week. Yesterday, I went to Elizabeth Anthony, one of the most beautiful stores for an event for the Houston Women's Fund, and they were raising money for this for health services for women, and it was just a really great event, and I was proud to be there and support. But I was also really impressed with the store. It was beautiful,
Fancy schmancy, isn't it?
It was, and I was wearing like an $18.99 Target skirt, but I walked it, ate all the little crab macaroons or whatever they're called, and
perfect.
Chatted, and they're like champagne. Yes,
okay,
please.
Back to your weekend. You're doing nothing?
No. What are you doing?
Family stuff.
Family stuff. What are you doing, Frank?
Well, we don't have any plans tonight.
Unpacking still.
Well, yeah. That's why I come to work, so Kevin can stay at home and unpack.
Earmuffs, Kevin.
And so tomorrow night we're going to have friends over to see the view from our new cottage in the sky.
The sunset.
And then we're going to go to dinner, I think, at Cafe Ginger. It's really good Asian food. And then Sunday we have a birthday party to go to in the afternoon.
Fun. Well, if you all are looking for something to do this Saturday, the Pixies will be in concert at White Oak Music Hall in support of their 2024 album, The Night the Zombies Came. And that concert starts at 5 p.m. And some of the coolest concerts I've been to have been at the White Oak Music Hall. So definitely be sure to check out that. Also, listen to
this. Hey, look at this. Cosme Garcia on our YouTube channel says Japanese Festival. That's cool.
We've got that. That is very cool. And the Japanese Festival is happening at Herman Park, featuring Japanese music, dance, martial arts, food, bonsais, or origami, and much more. That's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on both days, Saturday and Sunday. So all weekend long, be sure to check them out. But Frank, tell us about what's going on in Galveston.
I know. This is really moving. The Galveston is going to attempt to set a Guinness World Record. I guess the world record is for the most number of people to create a human chain. So they're going to meet at the seawall. People are all invited. They're going to attempt to create the longest walkway with an 8,125-person human chain facing the Gulf to remember the 8,000 lives lost in the 1900 storm, the hurricane. It's from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, if you'd like to participate, they're trying to get 8,125 people to all join at the seawall and hold hands, and create a human chain facing the Gulf in honor of those who died on September 8th, 1900.
And break the Guinness World Record.
Yeah. And that would be great. They might not. But just the fact that they are that they are 125 years after that storm, remembering. I mean, it's a well-remembered storm in Galveston. There's a lot.
And next week we will be talking about the Galveston, the 1900 storm.
Yeah,
as well.
September 8th was when that occurred, and I could tell you all about it.
And the NBA Young Boy in concert at Toyota Center with special guests Offset, 2C, DaBaby, Mellow Rax, Baby Mel, Lil Dump, and K3.
I don't know any of those
7:30 p.m. You like that? They're laughing at me.
What
in the
happened
booth.
to Captain Tennille?
Like that? Captain Tennille. We've come a long way, Frank. You know what else we have going on? On Sunday, Black on the Block at Post Houston, featuring more than 100 Black-owned businesses, a food court, DJ music, a performance by Kurt Bangs, and more. And that's $15
Post. I love
from
Post.
1 to 7 p.m. I love Post, too. We got a YouTube comment. Zach Perry says, like, hands across AMW.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought this was super cool. On Sunday, if you got little ones, hear me out. Kids Bop, Certified Bop Tour, an interactive concert featuring family-friendly versions of today's biggest hit songs. The concert will be at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion in the Woodlands, and that starts at 4 p.m. Oof, I have a 9-year-old. We are in our Kids Bop era.
You could go.
No, I'm not going to go.
You're not going to go.
Actually, I might look into tickets. I don't know.
Well, this is another kind of fun thing you could do. Central Market. You know where Central Market is?
Love Central Market, yeah.
Okay, they're having a cooking school, and they're going to host an event called Parent and Child, a Mary Poppins Tea Party. You can create 2 types of tea sandwiches, scones, and cake pops before sitting down for tea. Costumes are welcome. $90, 11 a.m.
I got to say, I did a cooking class with my daughter this summer.
Was it fun?
It was so fun. We did it at Sur La Table.
Sure, they have a lot of those.
And it was so fun. And it was funny because of the food regulations, you're not allowed to take the food home with you. But we made pasta, fresh pasta, and we were sitting there.
You made the pasta from flour and water and all that.
With the egg, everything. And then we made these salad boats that were delicious. And then we had this truffle with a little pound cake. And
so what went on the pasta?
A tomato, kind of like a tomatoey sauce.
Yeah.
It was delicious, but they don't let you take all the food. So I was like, Evelyn, you better eat up all that pasta because they are not going to throw away. It's like, eat your little heart out.
I've seen the Sur La Table. I'm trying to think in Central Market where they have...
Upstairs.
I've never been invited
When you
to be
walk into
upstairs.
the left, you go upstairs. Well,
I know, I'm not that special.
You know what else is going on? And this is a free event, Pop-Up on the Plaza, day party at Midtown Park Plaza, taking place on the first Sunday of the month. The event will feature food, vendors, and a lineup of Houston DJs, 4 p.m., and that's happening on Sunday. Also, for our theater friends, Main Street Theater will present Pearly Victorious, a comedic play by Ozzie Davis, traveling preacher Pearly Victorious Judson, who hopes to save his community's church. The performance starts at 3 p.m. These are fun. There's a lot of really fun stuff happening this weekend.
It looks like it's going to be busy. This is also on Saturday in Galveston.
What else we got?
I just saw this. This is hosting the 1904 GH&H Depot. We'll host the 1900 Storm Commemoration, a Market Street Social, also a free event. That is going to be a pop-up for food and live music and stories of survival. That's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. there on Market Street. So if you're going to try to be a part of the human chain and break the Guinness World Record for human chains, you could do that. Yes, and you could do that in the evening.
That's right. And if you're out there in Galveston, the Moody Gardens Car Show takes place in Galveston, showcasing more impressive vehicles from a wide array of vendors.
They have fun there in Galveston.
That's why I have a place there. You know what else? We don't have Ernie to give us the national days, but it is National Cheese Pizza Day. Do you like pizza, Frank?
I love pizza, but cheese pizza I find sort of tiresome.
Yeah, I don't like cheese pizza either.
Yeah. I'm kind of a meat lover's pizza, you know?
I'm not a big meat lovers. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm a pineapple. I'm a Hawaiian type of pizza. I don't let my kids order cheese pizza because I think it's boring. You know what else it is? I feel
Yeah.
You know what else I like? It's International Day of Charity.
Oh, that's nice.
That is really cool. And National Be Late for Something Day.
That fits you to a T.
I am never late. I remember when you first started working here, and I was always late to the meeting. You'd be like, is she ever on time?
Because I'm a television person. By God, I was there at 4, 5, 6, and 10, and I was never late.
I get it. You know what else? It is National Chianti Day. So for our red wine lovers.
Shot enough to pop. The thing about red wine, I don't really like it unless it's expensive. I can drink the cheapest rosé and the cheapest white, but for red, it can't be.
It has to be a good one.
Yeah, because it's too much heartburn involved if you don't have a good red wine.
Tell me about it, heartburn. And you know what? Shout out to all my lazy moms. It's National Lazy Moms Day, which there is no such thing. I don't know any mom
Get
who
a
can
job
be lazy.
on radio and you don't have to be there.
And you have to be there. Thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Fun week. Give me a high five.
It has been a fun week. Yeah. Join us next week. That brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you for joining, chatting, texting, emailing, and watching us right here on Hello Houston.
Ernie's back next week.
Have a great weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you next week with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altine, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
I'm Peter Sagal. On this week's Wait, Wait, we ask Renee Rapp, star of Mean Girls the Musical, if snobbery is more fun if you're singing. Join us for the news quiz that always invites